I wish I could say I noticed it right away, like a scene in a movie where the protagonist walks into the house and feels something is off. But it wasn't like that. It was subtle. It took me almost a full hour before I realized what had changed. I had come over for dinner, just me this time. My brother was working late, and my partner was sick at home. Mom had texted me earlier in the week, "Come by." Just the two of us, like old times red hard. I hadn't been sure how I felt about it, but I said yes anyway. Guilt does that, I guess. When I arrived, she greeted me with a too-tight hug in that familiar upbeat tone that always makes me suspicious now. Everything was amazing and perfect and just wonderful. Since her remarriage, it's like she's been living in a commercial for midlife bliss. But I nodded and smiled. We moved into the kitchen, where she was finishing some kind of baked pasta. She poured us both wine. I tried to be present. And then I went to the living room to grab a coaster. That's when it started sinking in. Slowly, like a cold draft under a door. The framed photo on the side table wasn't the one of me and my brother at the beach, the one with our ridiculous plastic sunglasses and the inflatable shark. It was gone. In its place, a posed portrait of her new husband's youngest daughter. Sophie, I think. The one who just turned 8. I frowned. Maybe she'd just moved some things around. But when I looked up at the mantel, where there used to be our school pictures lined up chronologically, I saw only one photo. A new one. A family portrait, taken in that overly crisp, clearly photoshopped style. Mom, her husband Derek, and his 2 kids. Sophie and Max. No me. No my brother. Not even one of the old photos in the corner. Just gone. I didn't say anything at first. We ate dinner, made small talk. I even complimented the wine, like some kind of coward. But the photos sat heavy in my brain like anchors. It wasn't just that they were gone, it was how cleanly they'd been removed. Like we were never part of that house to begin with. Like we'd never existed. After dinner, she offered coffee. I declined. "Can I ask you something?" I said, trying to keep my voice level. She looked up from the dishes, smiling too brightly. "Of course, honey. Anything. What happened to all the old pictures?" She blinked. "What pictures?" I knew then it wasn't an oversight. From when we were kids. The ones that used to be in the living room. They're gone. Her face shifted. Just a flicker. Then she gave a laugh, light, rehearsed. "Oh. I just thought it was time to update things. You know, freshen the place up a bit." "By getting rid of your kids?" That stopped her. "I didn't get rid of you," she said, suddenly defensive. "Don't be dramatic. I just wanted a space that reflects where my life is now." "Where your life is now doesn't include us?" "Don't twist my words, please." "I'm not twisting anything. I just think it's telling that you erased 20 years of your children's lives from the walls of your home." She crossed her arms. "They're in albums. You want to see them? They're not gone. I just didn't want the place to feel stuck in the past." I stood there, blinking. Trying to decide whether I was hurt, furious, or just tired. "This isn't about the past," I said. "It's about who gets to be visible. And apparently, we don't." She didn't reply. Just turned back to the sink. I left not long after that. No hug this time. The next day, she texted. "Sorry if last night upset you. I love you. Let's talk again when things are calmer." I didn't reply. Because honestly, I don't know if I want to have that conversation again. Not if she still doesn't see what the photos meant. What they were. Not decorations. Proof we were here. A week passed. I didn't reply to her text. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I genuinely didn't know what I could say that would land. That wouldn't either explode or evaporate. What do you say to someone who still calls you dramatic after you tell them it hurts to be erased? Every time I thought about it, my stomach clenched. The weirdest part was, my brother didn't seem fazed. I sent him a photo I'd taken before I left, the new family picture on the mantel. No trace of us. I added, notice anything missing? His reply. Yikes. Guess she's leaning into the new family aesthetic. Followed by a shrug emoji. That was it. I called him that night. That doesn't bother you? There was a pause. I mean, yeah, it's kinda weird. But whatever. She's always been like this. Chasing a version of herself that makes her feel better. That doesn't make it okay. I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying, are you really surprised? That landed like a slap. And what stung most was that he wasn't wrong. Our mom has always had this ability to rewrite things. Not maliciously, at least not always, but instinctively. If a version of the story made her uncomfortable, she'd reshape it, like soft clay. We joked about it as kids. How she'd insist our vacations were magical when we spent half of them fighting in motel rooms. How she'd claim she never raised her voice when we both had vivid memories of slammed doors and sharp words. But this, the photos, felt different. This wasn't about her glossing over the past. This was about who got to exist in her present. And I wasn't there. 2 weeks passed before I got another message from her. I found the albums you mentioned. Want to come by and look through them? I hesitated. But curiosity, or maybe some lingering hope, got the better of me. I went. When I arrived, she was already sitting in the living room. The same space that used to feel like home, now curated like a real estate listing. On the coffee table were 2 thick photo albums, leather-bound and slightly dusty. She gestured for me to sit. I figured we could go through them. Talk about what you're feeling. The effort was there. I'll give her that. I opened the first album. There we were, toddlers, with yogurt on our cheeks. My brother in his Superman cape. Me in my ridiculous glitter princess dress that I wore for a year straight. I didn't realize how tight my chest had been until I exhaled. Why didn't you just leave some of these up? I asked, not looking at her. She sighed. It's not that simple. It feels simple. No, it feels simple to you. But I'm trying to blend 2 families. That takes balance. If I put up pictures of you two, what does that say to Derek's kids? That they're not really mine? I stared at her. Are they? She blinked. Excuse me? I repeated, slowly, are they your kids? Or are they your husband's kids that you're trying to fold into a version of motherhood that makes you feel whole? Her face flushed. That's cruel. That's honest. She shook her head. You think I don't carry guilt? You think I don't lie awake wondering what I did wrong with you and your brother? You both barely talk to me anymore. And when I try to build something new, I get punished for it. I closed the album. That's the problem. You're not building something new. You're replacing. Editing. And you're pretending the past didn't happen. She sat back. Quiet for a long time. Then she said something that caught me off guard. I used to look at those photos and feel like a failure. I didn't speak. They reminded me of a time when everything fell apart. When I was barely holding on. When I didn't know how to love you without making it about my own pain. I swallowed. Hard. And when Derek came along, when the kids came in, I saw a chance to do things right. To have a home that felt happy. Clean. Safe. Not haunted. There it was. Her truth. But that doesn't mean I want to forget you, she added, softer. I looked at her. It just means you want to look around your house and not be reminded of us. She winced. I don't know how to hold both. That's the truth. I don't know how to be the mom I couldn't be, while still being the mom you needed. I nodded. Then maybe you need to stop trying to fix the past by pretending it didn't exist. We didn't finish going through the albums. But she left them out. And when I went to the kitchen to get water, I noticed something small, almost imperceptible, had shifted. A single framed photo on the hallway wall. Me and my brother, at ages 6 and 9, grinning in the back seat of the old Subaru. It wasn't front and center. But it was there. And I wondered, not for the first time, if that was the best I was ever going to get. And whether I could live with that. About 3 weeks after the photo album visit, it was my birthday. Nothing major, I wasn't planning to celebrate. I told my friends I wasn't in the mood, and my brother was out of town for a conference. I didn't expect anything from Mom, if I'm being honest. Maybe a generic text. A cake emoji. But she called that morning. And when I didn't answer, she showed up at my door. She had a card, a wrapped box, and that strange smile she gets when she's trying too hard to be easygoing. "I know you don't want to make a big deal," she said, holding the gift out, "but I thought I could just drop this off and, well, give you a hug, if that's allowed today." I stepped aside and let her in. She walked into my apartment like someone entering a museum, carefully, like she didn't want to disturb anything. Her eyes flicked over the shelf near the window, where I kept a few framed photos. One of me and my brother. One of me and Dad, from when I was maybe 8, sitting on his shoulders. That one made her pause. "I haven't seen that in years," she said quietly. "I found it in a box after he moved." "You remember he used to carry me around like that everywhere?" She nodded. "You always insisted. You were the queen of up." There was a nostalgic softness in her voice. For a second, we were just two people who remembered something the same way. Then I remembered why she was here. She handed me the box. "It's nothing big. Just something I saw and thought of you." Inside was a picture frame. Handmade looking, with painted vines and a small metal plate at the bottom that read, "Where you've been is part of who you are." I stared at it for a while. "I know," she said quickly. "Maybe it's cheesy. But I thought maybe you could put something from your childhood in it. Something you don't want to forget." I didn't know what to say. Then I opened the card. It was long. Handwritten. Not her usual happy birthday. "Love, Mom, 2 hearts kind of thing." It said, "I've been thinking a lot since you left the other night. About the pictures, yes. But more than that. About how much I wanted to be a version of myself that you'd feel proud of. And how, in chasing that version, I might have missed the chance to be the mother you needed when it counted. I didn't take those pictures down because I don't love you. I took them down because sometimes they made me feel like I had failed you. But that's not your burden to carry. That's mine. I'm trying to get better at seeing you. Really seeing you. Not the version I narrate to myself to sleep better at night. I know this doesn't fix anything. But I hope it's a step towards something different. Something truer. Happy birthday, my complicated, brave, fiercely honest kid. I love you more than I've always known how to say." I stared at the card for a long time. She didn't push. She didn't ask me what I thought. She just sat there, sipping tea from the mug I handed her, letting the silence be what it was. And when she left, I didn't stop her with some grand gesture. I didn't suddenly feel like everything had shifted. But after she was gone, I took the photo of me and my dad off the shelf, placed it in the new frame, and set it on the entry table, where I'd see it every time I came home. A week later, my brother called. He'd talked to Mom, apparently. She'd mentioned the birthday, the visit, the card. He asked, "So, is she actually trying this time?" I told him what she said. What she didn't say. The frame. He laughed. "Wow. A physical metaphor. Mom's getting poetic." "It's weird," I said. "She's trying. But I can't tell if she's trying for me, or to forgive herself." He was quiet a moment. "Maybe it's both," he said. That thought sat with me for a while. It made me uncomfortable, but not in a bad way. That Sunday, she invited me over again. This time for a family barbecue. Derek and the kids would be there. I almost said no. But something about the card, about her not defending herself for once, made me curious enough to go. When I arrived, the house still looked the same. Still staged. Still curated. But when I walked in, I noticed a new frame on the side table by the couch. Me and my brother, playing in the sprinkler in the backyard. Blurry, sun-drenched, joyful. Not the center of the room, no. But present. Visible. The barbecue was weird, if I'm honest. The stepkids were polite, but distant. Derek tried to make small talk with me about home renovations I couldn't care less about. Mom fluttered between the grill and the kitchen, trying to keep everything flowing. At one point, Sophie asked Mom, "Who are they?" gesturing toward me and my brother. And Mom said, without flinching, "My kids. From before. And always." Always? Sophie wrinkled her nose. Always, Mom repeated, looking right at me. I'm not sure what I expected in that moment. Maybe anger. Maybe bitterness. But what I felt was relief. Later that night, as I was leaving, I passed by the photo again. The one of the sprinkler, our soggy grins mid-laugh. I asked, quietly, "Why that one?" She shrugged. Because it reminded me what joy used to look like. Before I started trying so hard to control it. I didn't respond. I just nodded. Then left. And for the first time in a long time, the door closed behind me without slamming. The next time I went back to Mom's place, it wasn't planned. She called on a Thursday afternoon and said her car had died in the grocery store parking lot and Derek wasn't answering. I could hear the embarrassment in her voice, like she hated that she still needed help sometimes. Or maybe hated that she had to ask me for it. I happened to be nearby, so I told her I'd swing by. It felt weirdly easy. And weirdly grown-up, that transactional kind of errand-based closeness adult children have with their parents when the bigger things feel too heavy to talk about. We drove in silence for a bit. She had eggs in a bag at her feet and kept glancing down like they might hatch out of stress. At a red light, she said, "You remember when you were little and you thought I could fix anything?" I smirked. "You had that whole toolbox in the laundry room. I was convinced you were secretly a mechanic or something." She laughed. "I kept that thing mostly for show." We didn't say much else. But something about that small, self-deprecating truth sat in the car like a third passenger. Less weight. More presence. When we got back to her house, she invited me in for tea. I almost declined, but I could tell she wanted to keep the momentum of the non-awkwardness alive. So I said yes. As I waited in the kitchen, I noticed a new photo frame on the fridge, held up by one of those souvenir magnets from some water park. It was a candid, me and my brother, probably 15 and 13, sitting on the roof of the garage with popsicles. We looked exhausted. Sunburned. Happy. I smiled. She came back with tea. Noticed what I was looking at. That one was in a shoebox. I forgot I even had it. I remember that day. You told us not to go on the roof. We did anyway. And you scraped your knee climbing down. You still brought us lemonade. She sipped her tea. You two were always full of yourself in the best way. Wild energy. Like you owned the world. We moved into the living room. She talked about some plans for the backyard, and then asked casually if I still had boxes of my stuff at Dad's. I think so, I said. Why? I was just thinking, if you ever want to go through them, we could store some here. I could clear out a cabinet. I blinked. Really? She looked a little embarrassed. I know I haven't always made you feel like this is your home anymore. And maybe that's my fault. Okay, not maybe. Definitely. I didn't answer right away. I looked at her bookshelf, still mostly filled with cookbooks and novels she never finished. Then back at her. Can I ask you something? She nodded. Why do you keep everything that isn't us out in the open? Why do we have to be the things that stay packed away? She didn't speak right away. Just looked down at her cup. I think I've been scared, she said finally. That if I let the old stuff out, I'll remember what I did wrong. And I don't always know how to live with that. Then maybe that's something you have to learn, I said quietly. She nodded, slowly. You're right. That weekend, I went to Dad's. He still had a couple boxes in the garage marked with my name. Old yearbooks. Sketches I made in middle school. A varsity hoodie I swore I'd never wear again. And, of course, photos. So many photos. Loose, yellowed, bent at the corners. Some from cheap disposable cameras, others from school picture days. Me with missing teeth. My brother in hand-me-downs. Us with her mom younger, more tired, sometimes smiling, sometimes not. There was one of her on the porch, holding a tray of cupcakes. I think I was turning 9. I remember her cursing under her breath because she dropped one. But in the photo, she's beaming. The kind of smile that still had hope tucked in it. I put that one aside. When I brought the boxes back to her place, she met me at the door like I was delivering something fragile. You sure? I asked. Some of this stuff, it's a lot. I want to try, she said. We set the boxes down in the living room. I didn't expect her to open them immediately. But she did. Sat cross-legged on the floor like she used to when she folded laundry, and pulled out one photo at a time like flipping tarot cards. She paused on one of me in a Halloween costume, a cardboard robot made out of old cereal boxes. Oh God, she laughed. That thing fell apart before you even got to school. Yeah, but you stayed up until midnight making it. She smiled. I forgot that part. That's kind of the problem, I said. Her smile faded. I know. She pulled out a small metal box, the one where I used to keep treasures. Inside, a friendship bracelet, a ticket stub, a folded note from a 5th grade classmate that said simply, "You're weird." I like it. We laughed. She held the box a long time. I miss this version of you, she said. But I like the one sitting here now. That's a start, I said. We didn't solve anything that day. Not completely. But she framed 3 photos from that box and put them on the wall in the hallway. Next to the new ones. Not in place of. Alongside. And that made all the difference. There was a stretch, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, where things felt manageable. Not perfect, not fixed, but calm. Mom and I started texting more regularly, mostly small stuff, recipes, garden photos, a dog she saw on the street in a sweater. Nothing deep. That's how it is sometimes with people who have hurt you, you rebuild through surface-level trivia because it's easier than reopening wounds. One night she invited me over for dinner. Said Derek and the kids would be there too. I hesitated, not because I didn't want to see her, but because I wasn't sure I wanted to sit across the table from a family that had, at one point, felt like a replacement for mine. Still, I agreed. I'd like to try, I texted. Her response. So glad. I'll make lasagna, your kind, not theirs winking face. When I arrived, I brought a bottle of wine and my old Polaroid camera. I'm not sure why. Maybe I just wanted to document the moment, in case it turned out to be good. The house was warm, buzzing with low conversation and the clatter of plates. Sophie was drawing on the whiteboard wall in the dining room, Max scrolling something on his phone. Derek was in the kitchen, carving bread with too much force. Mom lit candles like she was hosting a magazine shoot. When she saw me, she smiled. You came. I said I would. I know. I just wasn't sure. We hugged. It was short, but real. Dinner started off awkward but polite. Derek asked about work. I gave vague answers. Sophie asked why I took photos with that old camera. I told her, because sometimes the old way captures things better. She didn't get it, but that was fine. Halfway through the meal, Max, quiet until that point, asked, "Hey, didn't this used to be your house?" I blinked. What do you mean? He shrugged. I mean, like, before. My dad said you and your brother grew up here, right? Yeah. We did. Oh. He went back to his food. Weird. Sophie giggled. It's not your house anymore, though. It's ours. The table went dead quiet. My fork paused in midair. I wasn't mad at her, she's just a kid. But it still hit something raw. Mom cleared her throat. Sophie. It's okay, I said, calmly. She's not wrong. Mom looked at me, panicked. I smiled, tight-lipped, and took a sip of wine. There it was. The invisible divide. The space between then and now. Between who lived here and who lives here. Between who was seen and who had to ask to be remembered. Derek changed the subject. Something about the backyard lights. No one went back to what Sophie said. Later, while the kids were watching a movie and Derek was on a work call, Mom followed me out onto the porch. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't know she'd say that. She's 8. You don't need to apologize for her. No, she said. But I do for me. I looked at her. I've tried to make this house feel like a home again, she said, but I didn't think about how much of your home I erased to do that. I didn't speak. The quiet did more than words. She added, I don't want you to feel like a guest in your own history. That's exactly what I feel like, I said. Like someone who used to matter here, but now just visits for dinner and disappears again. Her face crumpled just slightly. What do you want me to do? That was the thing. I didn't know. I don't want to fight you, I said. I don't want to win anything. I just want to know if I still exist to you. Not the version of me that's easy to put on the fridge, but the messy, real one who remembers everything. She reached out and touched my hand. You do. I'm just late to remembering it too. The next day, I got a text from her. Would you help me build a photo wall? One with everyone. No edits. Just real. I replied. Yeah. I'd like that. That weekend, we pulled out all the boxes again. This time, she brought down even more. From the attic. From the garage. She made tea. We sat on the floor for hours, surrounded by old memories and fragments of childhood. Some photos were hilarious. Some were blurry. Some were painful. One in particular, of my brother and me at Mom's first birthday after the divorce, made her go quiet. We were holding a cake we'd made, lopsided and ugly as hell, but grinning like idiots. I didn't deserve that cake, she said. Maybe not. But we still made it. We picked 10 photos each. Me, her, Derek, Max, Sophie. Childhood, adulthood, chaos. Nothing curated. No symmetry. Just life. She let me hang mine first. I started with one of me in the backyard with a broken sprinkler, arms up like I was dancing. I nailed it slightly crooked. She didn't fix it. By the end of the day, the hallway was alive again, not like before, not better, just honest. After we were done, she looked around and whispered, I think this is the first time this house has felt like everyone lives here. I nodded. Even the people who don't anymore. For a while, things felt like they were finally settling into a new rhythm. The photo wall stayed up. That mattered more than I expected. Sometimes I'd visit just to walk past it, to make sure the pictures hadn't been quietly rotated back into storage when no one was looking. They hadn't. The crooked one of me under the sprinkler was still there, lopsided and bold, like a flag planted in memory. One afternoon, a few weeks later, I got a call from Mom. Hey, she said, don't freak out, but I was thinking about taking down the photo wall. I felt my stomach drop. Why? I asked, too sharply. I didn't mean it how it sounded. I want to move it. To the main hallway. Not the back one near the laundry room. Somewhere more central. I blinked. Seriously? Yes. I want it where everyone has to see it. Every day. Not just when they're hunting for a mop. That was the first time I believed she was truly proud of all of us, not just the chapter she was in now. We rescheduled a weekend to do it together. I brought more nails. She brought more photos. Even my brother showed up, half interested, but smiling when he saw one of him in a Halloween costume he'd sworn never happened. "This is emotional blackmail," he joked. "Maybe," I said, "but it worked." Later, we were sitting on the porch again. It had become our unofficial truth-telling place. She said, "I was talking to Derek the other night. He asked me if I'd ever felt like I was split in two. Like the person I used to be and the one I am now were fighting for space." I didn't answer. I just looked at her, waiting. And I told him yes. Every day. And the worst part is, both sides think they're the one who's right. I let that hang there. Then I asked, "So which side are you choosing?" She smiled sadly. "Neither. I'm just trying to teach them to share the mirror." Around that time, Sophie and Max started asking more questions. They'd never been rude to me, just distant. I never pushed. I didn't want to be the bitter sibling of the past haunting their bright new family. But one night, Sophie asked, "Were you sad when the house changed?" We were sitting on the back steps. She was coloring. I was pretending to help garden but mostly just pulling up dandelions. "Yeah," I said. "I was." "Do you hate us?" I looked at her, startled. "No. Not at all." She frowned. "I just thought, maybe you were mad because you weren't here anymore." I took a breath. I was mad because I felt forgotten. That's not the same as hating anyone. You didn't do anything wrong. You were just here. And I wasn't. She nodded slowly. "Sometimes I feel like that when I go to my mom's house. Like I'm just visiting her new life." That hit me in a way I wasn't ready for. "You're not alone in that," I said. "It's weird, right? When people keep changing the rooms where your memories live." She looked at me, very seriously. "I hope you find a room that stays yours." Me too, kid, I thought. A few nights later, Mom texted me again. "I found something I want to show you. Come by when you can." It was a shoebox. Of course. Everything that matters in our family is stored in old shoeboxes. Inside, a bunch of letters I'd written as a kid. Some cards. A drawing I did when I was 7 of Mom the superhero, cape, big hair, shooting lasers out of her eyes. She handed it to me like a peace offering. Or maybe a time capsule. "I kept these," she said. "Even when I felt like I didn't deserve them anymore." I flipped through one. I'd drawn hearts in every corner and written in wobbly pencil, "You are the best mom I've ever had." We both laughed. "You were also the only mom I had," I said. "I know," she replied. Still meant something. That same night, I asked her something I'd been holding onto for months. "Why didn't you ask how it made me feel when the photos were gone? I mean, when I first brought it up. You were so quick to defend your choice, but not once did you ask how it felt to walk into your home and not see a trace of your own childhood." She was quiet for a long time. "I was afraid," she said. "If I asked, you'd tell me. And I wasn't ready to hear it. I wasn't strong enough to sit with the shame. But you still made the choice." "I know. That's what hurt. That it wasn't an accident. It was a decision." She didn't cry. I think we were both past that point. But she nodded. "I can't undo it. But I can hold it now. If you want to tell me how it felt, I can listen." And for once, I did. I told her. Not all at once. Not angrily. But honestly. About what it felt like to walk into a space that had been mine and find it scrubbed clean. About feeling like a relic in my own history. About the silence that followed when I spoke up, and how I had to fill in the blanks on my own. She didn't defend. She didn't correct. She just listened. And when I was done, she said, Thank you for not giving up on me when I gave up on parts of you. When I left that night, I didn't feel better. But I did feel heard. And sometimes, that's enough. There's a moment, if you're lucky, when something finally shifts in a relationship that's been hanging by threads. Not in some grand, cinematic explosion, but quietly. Like a door left ajar during a storm finally being closed. Not slammed. Just closed. Intentionally. That shift happened the night Mom invited us all to dinner again, this time with my brother and his fiancée, her partner Derek, and the kids. Everyone. It was meant to be some sort of blended celebration. No occasion. Just the idea of us trying to exist under one roof without history breathing down our necks. I didn't expect it to go well. Neither did my brother, if I'm honest. But we went. Because that's what you do, sometimes, not out of optimism, but out of curiosity. To see if the script finally changes. When we arrived, the house looked like it was ready for a magazine shoot again, but this time, it felt more lived in. The hallway was still lined with the shared photo wall, old, new, messy, real. My brother pointed at a picture of us in our Halloween costumes again and muttered, "She really kept this one up, huh?" "She's brave," I said. "That wig alone could ruin reputations." He smirked. "Speak for yourself." Inside, the table was already set, mismatched plates, candles in old jelly jars, one kid's chair with a booster seat that clearly didn't belong to either of us but somehow wasn't out of place anymore. Derek greeted us first, warm in that overly practiced way he always was. Then Mom came in, wiping her hands on a towel, and smiled like she hadn't just spent the whole day panicking about whether this would implode. She hugged us both. Quick, but tight. No fanfare. Dinner started light, safe topics, oversalted potatoes, polite laughter. Sophie told a story about a teacher who wears capes on Fridays. Max ignored everyone. The adults danced around history like it had fangs. But then, about halfway through, Mom stood up. She clinked her glass awkwardly. Everyone quieted. My stomach turned. "I just wanted to say something," she said. Derek looked up, clearly not briefed. My brother raised an eyebrow. Mom cleared her throat. "This is the first time in a long time that I've had everyone I love in the same room. And for a while, I thought I could only hold one version of family at a time. That to move forward, I had to let go of where I came from. But I was wrong." She glanced toward me, then my brother. "I've made mistakes. Big ones. I've tried to paper over them, avoid them, even decorate around them. And I know that didn't make them disappear, it just made them hurt more. For you. For me." Sophie asked, loud and unfiltered, "Is this a sad speech?" Everyone chuckled. Even Mom. "No, sweetheart," she said. "It's a real one." She sat back down. Didn't wait for applause. And weirdly, no one said a thing. Not out of awkwardness, but because something had actually landed. Like we were all figuring out how to breathe in the same rhythm again. After dinner, my brother and I stayed to help clean up. We moved into a comfortable silence, then small talk. Then real talk. He nodded toward Mom, who was busy wrapping leftovers. "She's different." "She's trying," I said. "Think it'll last?" I thought about that. I think it's not about lasting. It's about noticing when it slips and choosing to bring it back. He nodded, slowly. That's surprisingly wise. I watch a lot of therapy TikTok. He snorted. Before we left, Mom pulled me aside into the hallway. She pointed at one of the photos I hadn't noticed before. It was new. Me, at the last barbecue. Laughing, plate in hand, head tilted back like I didn't care about anything for once. "I had Derek take it," she said. "You didn't notice." But I wanted to remember that moment. I looked at it. It wasn't perfect. I looked weirdly mid-chew. But it was real. And recent. And on her wall. "I like it," I said. She looked at me. "Do you forgive me?" That hit hard. Not because I didn't want to, but because forgiveness isn't a single door you walk through. It's a hallway. With many thresholds. I think I'm working on it, I said. I think you are too. She nodded. That's fair. We stood in silence for a moment. Then she said, "You know what I realized? All those years, I kept thinking motherhood was about doing it right. But maybe it's about staying when you get it wrong. About being willing to rebuild." I smiled. Then I think you're finally doing it right. As I drove home that night, I looked in the rearview mirror and thought about all the versions of family I'd carried with me, the loud ones, the broken ones, the edited ones, the fragile ones. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to sort them into right or wrong. I could hold them all. Let them be. Like a photo wall with too many frames, none of them matching, all of them telling the truth. You'd think that after a dinner like that, a small, quiet reckoning, things would feel healed. But healing doesn't happen like that. Not in my family. Sometimes the bandages peel too soon. Sometimes you forget you're even bleeding until someone says the wrong thing. 2 weeks later, I was at Dad's house. We don't talk about Mom much. He doesn't ask, and I usually don't offer. It's like an unspoken agreement, one of many we've formed since the divorce, since adulthood softened some of the sharp edges between us. But that day, he was digging through a drawer looking for batteries and found an old photo. Me, in a soccer uniform. Covered in dirt. Gap-toothed grin. He handed it to me, smiling. "You hated soccer. But you never wanted to quit." I took the photo and held it in my hands. "I was trying to make Mom happy," I said, before I could stop myself. He paused. "Yeah," he said finally. "You did that a lot." That stuck with me. Because it wasn't said with judgment. Just observation. But it cracked something open. All those years, trying to be the good kid. The easy one. The one who didn't cry too loud or ask too much. Trying to hold her together by pretending I didn't need anything from her. And now, when I finally admitted I did, even if it was something as small as keeping my photo on the wall, it had felt like betrayal. Like I was asking too late. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my floor with the box of old stuff I'd brought back from Dad's. Photos. Letters. A notebook full of drawings. Little pieces of me that no one else had touched in years. And I cried. Not out of sadness, exactly. Grief, maybe. The grief of realizing that no matter how many conversations we have, no matter how many frames we hang, there are versions of me my mom will never know, because she wasn't really there when they were born. And not because she didn't love me. But because she was too caught up in her own unraveling to see mine. The next morning, I called her. "Hey," I said. "Everything okay?" "Yeah. I was wondering. Can I ask you something weird?" "You've asked me weirder." I hesitated. "Do you remember the soccer photo?" Me, all muddy, big smile? "Of course. That was the tournament you lost every game and still said you had the best weekend of your life." I smiled despite myself. "Did you know I hated soccer?" Silence. Then, no. "I only played it because I thought it would give you something to cheer for." More silence. Then, in a voice just above a whisper. "I'm sorry I didn't know." We didn't talk long that day. But something about her not rushing to defend herself, not offering an excuse, just owning the gap, made me breathe a little easier. We were learning. Slowly. In layers. A few days later, I was back at her place. We were organizing the hallway closet, mostly a cover for spending time together without making it a thing. We found more photos. Some blurry. Some forgotten. And one that made us both stop. It was me, maybe 13. Sitting on the roof of the garage again, a different day than the Polaroid, this time with my knees hugged to my chest and my face turned away from the camera. I looked small. Not physically, but emotionally. Like I'd folded into myself. Mom stared at it. I remember that day, she said. Yeah? You came home from school and didn't say a word. Just climbed up there and stayed until dinner. I asked if you were okay, and you said, "It's just a lot." And I left it at that. I nodded. I should have asked more. It wouldn't have changed anything, I said, though I wasn't sure if that was true. She turned the photo over. On the back, in my handwriting, it said, "Sometimes quiet is the only way I can scream." We both went silent. Later, she asked if I wanted to hang that photo up. I said no. Some things don't belong on the wall. Some things are meant to stay close, but private. Instead, I put it in my wallet. A reminder of how far we've come. And what still lives inside me. That night, before I left, she handed me a box. "What's this?" "A new one," she said. "Not full yet. But I thought maybe we could start filling it together." Inside were blank pages. Empty sleeves. Room. Not for replacements. For everything else. For both of us. The box she gave me, the new one, the blank one, sat on my shelf for almost 2 weeks before I touched it again. It wasn't out of avoidance. Not really. More like I didn't know what deserved to go inside. What stories were still worth keeping. I'd spent so long trying to protect the past from being overwritten that the idea of starting a new archive felt fragile. But one night I pulled it down. Opened it. Stared at the empty pages and tried not to see them as ghosts of what wasn't. I started with a photo. It wasn't old. It was from the dinner we had with everyone: Derek, the kids, my brother and his fiancée, me, and Mom. Someone had set up a timer. We were all mid-laughter. Unposed. Unfiltered. A little blurry. Everyone was in the frame. And I didn't look like a guest. That weekend, I brought the box back to Mom's. "I thought we could start filling it together," I said. She looked stunned. "You kept it." I said I would. She smiled like she didn't trust her own face to move too much. We spread everything out on the kitchen table. Not just photos, ticket stubs, postcards, a torn napkin with a doodle I'd done at 8, a fortune cookie slip that read "Home is a place you carry." "Can I add something?" she asked. She handed me a wrinkled photo of her and my brother from a camping trip we'd taken years ago. I wasn't in it. It was just the two of them, making faces at the camera. I remember the moment well. I'd been off sulking because they'd eaten the last of the marshmallows without me. "I almost didn't include it," she said. "Because you're not in it. But it's part of the story too." I nodded. Exactly. We kept going. She added a grocery list I'd written when I was 10 that included 5 bags of chips and at least 2 cookies. I added a broken button from the coat she used to wear every winter, the one I used to borrow without asking. The book grew slowly, not neatly. Like us. The next week, something surprising happened. Sophie asked if she could see my photo wall at my apartment. "I want to see what you looked like when you were my age," she said. "You always say we have the same eyebrows." I laughed. "You're not wrong." She and Max came over that Saturday. We ordered pizza. I let them pick the movie. Big mistake. I now know more about Minecraft lore than I ever asked for. Afterward, we looked at my wall. She pointed at a photo of me holding a goldfish. "Why do you look so proud?" "Because I won that fish at a carnival by throwing a ring onto a bottle top. Took me 20 tries. Did it live?" 2 days. She laughed. Still counts. At one point, Max, who rarely spoke unless asked directly, wandered over to my desk. He picked up a photo of Mom when she was younger, maybe 30, holding a cake. "She looked happy," he said. "She was trying," I replied. He looked at me. "She still is." There wasn't judgment in his voice. Just observation. "You're right," I said. "She is." That night, I told Mom about it. She got quiet. I always wanted them to feel like they belonged, she said. But I was so afraid that meant you wouldn't. You're not the only one who thought that, I said. She nodded. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize you both could. We started talking more openly after that. Not every day. Not about everything. But the kind of talking where you don't leave holding your breath. She told me about therapy. I didn't go because you asked me to, she said. I went because I realized I was still living as if the only way to love someone was to mold them into what you could handle. That sounds exhausting, I said. It was. I told her I'd started journaling again. She didn't ask to read it. That meant more than if she had. One night, we had dinner alone. No kids, no Derek, no events. She pulled out a box, not mine, a new one. I started this, she said. For me. Inside, pictures of her as a kid. Her as a teen. Her and my dad. Her alone. Notes she'd written to herself. A program from a play she saw in college. A crumpled ticket to a concert she went to before she ever became a mother. This is who I was, she said. Before I tried to be everything for everyone else. I thought maybe, if I could remember her, I could understand who I'm trying to be now. I didn't cry. But I wanted to. Because for the first time, I wasn't the only one in the room carrying the weight of what was missing. We stayed up late, talking. About mistakes. About memory. About what it means to be a parent when the blueprint you were handed is flawed. Do you ever wish things had gone differently? She asked. Of course, I said. Me too, she whispered. But wishing doesn't make it less real. Only showing up does. She reached across the table and took my hand. I'm here, she said. Even if I'm late. I squeezed her hand. I'm still here too. It's strange how memory works. The things I thought would matter most, the trophies, the perfect report cards, the neat school photos where I smiled just right, don't linger the way I expected. Instead, it's the lopsided moments. The candid ones. The days where nothing went as planned, and no one knew what they were doing, but love still somehow made it into the room. Those are the memories I find myself holding on to now. And those are the ones we framed. A few months had passed since that first difficult conversation with my mom. The one about the photos, the wall, the past she tried to rearrange without me in it. It's still hard to describe exactly what changed. There was no grand gesture, no sweeping apology that wiped it all clean. But slowly, things softened. Not everything. Not always. But enough. We started a tradition. Every few Sundays, we'd meet up, sometimes at her house, sometimes mine, and we'd each bring something for the box. A photo, an object, a story we hadn't told before. The rule was simple, no edits, no pretending, no skipping the hard parts. Just the truth. One afternoon, she handed me a newspaper clipping. It was yellowed, curled at the edges. An article from years ago about a middle school play I'd been in. I was a tree. Literally. One line, one costume made of glued leaves and brown tights. I was so proud, she said. You cried, I added. You kept saying, that's my tree, during curtain call. She laughed. I still have the costume somewhere. It's falling apart. Like most things, I said, smiling. Like most things that matter, she corrected. A week later, I gave her a tape. It was a voice recording from an old cassette I found buried in a shoebox. Me, age 7, interviewing her like a news anchor. Tell us, Miss Mom, I say in the recording, what's the best part of being a parent? There's a pause. You can hear her breathing. Then she says, that I get to watch you become someone. We listened to it 3 times. She cried the third. Not because of what she said. But because she hadn't remembered saying it. And because it was still true. The house looks different now. It's still full of life, Sophie's drawings, Max's headphones tangled on the kitchen table, Derek's half-finished weekend projects. But now, we're in it too. Not as ghosts. As part of the structure, the photo wall stretches longer. Our messy past woven with their chaotic present. A timeline without edits. A story that doesn't skip chapters. It's not balanced. It's not even. But it's honest. And that feels like a miracle. One afternoon, Sophie pulled me aside. "Can I show you something?" she asked. She led me into her room and pointed to a corner shelf. On it, a picture of her and me at the lake, both of us soaked, laughing, my sunglasses askew. "You kept that?" I asked. "It's my favorite," she said. "You look like you don't care what anyone thinks." I smiled. I didn't. Not that day. She hesitated. "Does it still make you sad? That things changed?" I thought about it. A little. But sometimes change is the only way we get to build something better. She nodded. "You belong here, you know." And there it was, the thing I'd never been sure I'd hear from anyone other than my own reflection. "Mom framed a new photo recently. It's of all of us, the whole chaotic, patchworked, real family, piled onto the couch in ridiculous pajamas during game night. It's front and center now. Not because it's perfect. But because it's ours. I don't need every photo back. I don't need to erase what came after me to prove that I still matter. I just need space on the wall. A page in the box. A seat at the table. And now, I have those. Not because I demanded them. But because we rebuilt them. Together. The end.